everybody, it's Zach here on a rain out day at the tennis courts. And even though there's no tennis being played today, we still have our playtest and performance review of the Wilson Amplifeel 2.0s. This is Wilson's latest lineup of high top tennis shoes. Now, high top tennis shoes are a pretty interesting concept to me as a foot doctor because I see a lot of people coming in saying, I really wish I could find a good pair of high top tennis shoes, but in their heart of hearts, they really don't want the bulk or the weight of a high top tennis shoe. So today we're going to have our play test, serve test, and suicide test of the Wilson Amplifeel 2.0s. And we're going to find out, did they hit or miss the mark when it comes to the ultimate high top tennis shoe? Now, if there's anything that you would like me to cover in these tennis shoe performance reviews that I'm not doing so already, just leave me a comment down below. I read every one, and I really would like to make sure that I am covering all the bases that you would like to see covered in these performance reviews. And as always, remember, in a couple weeks, these will be cut in half to see what's under the hood. So now to our play test. The first thing I noticed about the Wilson Amplifeel 2.0s is they're pretty hard to get on. This is a one-piece tongue combined with a elastic high top with an ankle strap. So when getting them on, if you have two pairs of socks or a thicker pair of socks on, it's going to take you a few times playing in them to actually break that eyelet of the high top in to get them on. Once I did have them on, however, I noticed that it does give you kind of like a vacuum seal around your ankle, which is a pretty nice feeling being on the court and trying to run down balls. Now, a lot of people ask me, do high tops prevent ankle sprains? And the answer is always an emphatic no. No high top is ever going to prevent you from spraining your ankle. And here is why. So when we sprain our ankle on a tennis court, typically that means we're going side to side. Now when you stop and plant and your body keeps going, then usually that's when your ankle rolls and you get an ankle sprain. Now, when you're on one foot or when all your body weight is on one foot, you can be exerting up to 300% of your body weight on that foot. Now, do you really think that this elastic strap or this piece of woven elastic is really going to prevent 300% of your body weight from rolling over the shoe? It's never going to happen. So what does that elastic high top and elastic strap actually do? Now what it does is it creates a feedback loop and it aids in what's called proprioception. What that means is when you start rolling, when you start going on the outside of your foot, this strap and this elastic material tighten. What that does is it signals to the nerve in your ankle that you're about to go over. That nerve then sends a signal to your brain to course correct, and then your muscle contracts and pushes you the other way. That's called proprioception or a biofeedback loop. That is really great for people that aren't ankle sprainers to begin with, but are very aggressive movers that really want a lot of performance out of the shoe to be able to cut fast. However, if you are an ankle sprainer, you're better off buying a shoe with a really wide flange on the lateral side or just wearing an ankle brace. This shoe is built for speed. It's only 13.6 ounces. Now that is incredible for a high top tennis shoe. Typically high top shoes are pretty heavy. Now how does Wilson get away with that? Number one is the mesh upper. An upper is pretty much all mesh. There's not a lot of woven material. There is a couple pieces of stitching, but it's mostly mesh, which also aids in a lot of heat transfer and breathability, which is outstanding. The next part is they've sacrificed a little bit of weight in the midsole for more plastic in the midsole. Now, as you'll see on the inside of the heel, the medial heel, they have one of their pieces of plastic support trusses, that 4D support they call it. Also on the outside of the shoe where the lateral flange is, they've sacrificed a little bit of bulk in the lateral flange for this plastic piece, which will give you a little more support. However, it does make the shoe feel a little more thin on the bottom and is not going to give you as much bounce. Now, being a doctor, I've got to test that, so let's test that out with our serve test and see how much bounce these things really give you. And as I suspected, these shoes only gave me 15 centimeters of height using the serve test. Now that is compared to 35 centimeters using the Nike GP Turbos. That just shows you that that lack of bounce does have consequences for your game. Since these shoes are pretty much built for speed, we want to take a look at what else makes them so speedy. Number one is the tread. They have an unbelievable air channel here right in the midfoot, right? With a shank that is aerodynamic, which is pretty interesting. It's not a flat shank, right? It's got this little ridge in it, which I find incredibly interesting. Maybe some other people don't, but I do. So this gives you a lot of air under the shoe. So when you're moving, this shoe moves. The next part is this aggressive herringbone tread. Now it has Wilson's Duralast in it, so it should last you enough time when playing on a hard or clay court. Of course, we're going to test that in a couple weeks when we do our durability test on it. However, I do find it really interesting that they've been able to engineer the shank of the shoe even to make more speed, as well as make it lighter. Now this shoe has relatively no break-in. As soon as I was actually able to get the shoe on, it felt great. I have a wide foot, as most of you know that watch these videos, and this shoe had zero break-in. And even if the shoe were made a little more narrow, which it's not, it probably wouldn't be a big deal because the upper of the shoe just expands as soon as you get in it. So if you have a wide foot, this is perfect for you. And even if you have a more narrow foot, remember, this does have more of a vacuum seal. So once you tighten it up, it's gonna vacuum around your foot and your ankle. So even if you have a narrow foot, this shoe will fit you pretty well too. So it's good for all foot types. Now, of course, since I just keep harping on speed with these shoes, we've got to test the speed of them out doing the suicide test. And once again, as I suspected, the Wilson Amplifeel 2.0s were second only to the Nike Air Zoom GP Turbos. The Wilsons came in at 15.06 seconds and the GP Turbos at 14.48 seconds. The two shoes both smoked every other shoe I tried. However, when testing the Wilson Amplifeel 2.0s out on clay, it beat every other shoe by almost a second, just by how aggressively the shoe digs into the clay, even in the bare spots. So getting a little more in-depth onto the high top of this shoe, I do consider this a one-piece tongue, even though it does separate out here, which gives you a little more stability. The woven high top is sewn kind of directly into the midsole of the shoe combined with the outer of the shoe. So to me, it's kind of a one piece with just the outer kind of being an additional strap over top of it, which is going to give you the best of both worlds. It's going to give you the booty-like feeling of a one-piece tongue, and it's also going to give you the stability and the locked-in feeling of a three-piece. There's a couple other things on the outer. You do see this little patch here for sliding of rubber, and this will help. However, with the entire upper being of mesh, you need a few more of these to make it truly a more durable outer. So there is a chance you might burn a few hot spots in this. You do have a nice big toe cap here, which will aid in some sliding prevention. However, on the outside of the shoe, you can probably expect to burn through these if you slide a lot on a hard court. Now this shoe to me is kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde of speed shoes, right? It is a super fast shoe, and they've made some incredible innovations like the shark fin shank and integrating the plastic into the midsole. However, the shoe is just so light and so bendy, right? You're not going to get as much spring back in the shoe. It doesn't have that thick midsole layer to give you that bounce, right? Or that feedback when you come down, and that's why the serve test, it didn't show as much height, only about 15 centimeters, right? However, with how light the shoe is, and with the high top giving you that glove-like feeling, you are going to get to move better. So the best players for this shoe are players that bring their own leg strength, right? People that don't need as much bounce in the shoe, they just want pure speed. You bring the muscle, these shoes will bring the performance. Now these shoes will run you about $140, and most of that money went toward Wilson reverse engineering the high top shoe, taking out everything that was unnecessary and trying to make the lightest high top they possibly could. So if you're someone that needs a little more bounce in their step, maybe go with the Nike GP Turbos, the Adidas Sole Court Boost, even the A6 Gel Resolution 8, something that has a lot more midsole material to give you more bounce. However, if you're just looking for speed, and if you're basically a baseline grinder that likes to move back and forth on the court, this is probably your shoe. So if there's any tennis shoe that you would like me to review, just leave me a comment down below and tell me what shoe you'd like to see. So until my next review or teardown, hope everyone has a great day, great night, wherever you're tuning in from. See you next time.